let's testify tonight. Oh God, you've done so much for me. I'm grateful and overwhelmed here at your feet. And I could stay here forever, Lord, but you call me to something more. And I hear you say that you have a plan to use every broken woman and man to display just how good you are. We are your living pieces of art. What good does it do to hide away when all of my scars are a picture of grace? All right. So I will testify of the power of God. I will tell the world of the hope I have found. You, Lord. For my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, do you believe it? Has he done it for anyone else? I said, has he done it for anyone else? Cause the God that I serve, he's always at work. Has he done it for anyone else? So come on and testify of the power of God. Come on and tell the world of the hope we have found. For our body was broken, our hearts were made whole, and that's too good to keep to yourself. Come on and testify of the power of God. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify your voice. This is my. So I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify. Come on, take it out. Jesus, my champion, the victor of grace, the only one worthy of all of my praise. Yeah. So come on and testify. Oh, somebody lift him high. Come on, testify of the power of God. I will tell the world of the hope I have found. Oh, in you, Lord. For my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Sing that. Oh, my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, let's do that right now, Murfreesboro.
And good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I have the little bland bat wrapped up in like a burrito today because it's been a little chilly. But I hope you guys are doing well. Um, I am curious. I know I put it in the chat already, but Trek Reviewer says that Paramount made it official that there will be no more Kelvinverse movies, and they want to average 8 new series on Paramount Plus a year. That okay? So let me just say this. I know we're here to talk about Leviticus, but since it came up, the if that is true, I'm a little puzzled. And so on the no more Kelvin verse movies, I couldn't be happier because I think the Kelvin verse was a very bad idea. It was basically, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the movies were all bad. I enjoyed particularly I thought that the first two were all right, and I thought the third one was horrible. But the idea of making Star Trek more like Star Wars, which is exactly what J.J. Abrams was trying to do, he said as much when he was making it. I think that was a bad idea. And so I think Star Trek should be Star Trek, not Star Wars with the Enterprise. So, no Kelvin movies. I couldn't be happier if that's true. But on the other part of it, when you say 8 new series a year, that seems excessive to say the least. Um, on the one hand, yeah, that would be freaking awesome if we were 8 good shows. But I don't know that is makes sense. The only thing, maybe it's a misquote from you said you saw it on TrekCore. It might have been a misquote. Like they might be talking about 8 new series of any kind on Paramount Plus, although that would seem a little light. So I don't know. I would want to see something official from Paramount. Which I haven't had the the time or the energy to do, but uh, and I agree with you on that, Trek reviewer. At least with the first 2 films, they were good movies, but not good Star Trek movies. Um, and by the way, welcome Mike Richards, the best thing to come out of Columbus, Ohio. But yeah, the particularly the first movie and even the second one, they were decent movies. They just weren't good Trek. Um, and the third movie, I thought, was an absolute abomination, though. Again, a good movie, but as far as Trek, it was the Last Jedi levels of bad. So yeah. Let's see. This is. Let's see if I can find anything that's official. Let's say top stories. That's from comicbookmovie.com. Screen Rant says Star Trek movie plans confirmed in Paramount Report. Um, but that was, let me see. So, do they have a source here? New plans for another Star Trek movie have been revealed in Paramount Report, confirming the direction the franchise has taken. Star Trek movies have always been a prominent part of the larger sci-fi story timeline. However, the last theatrical release came in 2016. According to Variety, there are plans in place for a new Star Trek movie in hopes of reinvigorating the franchise. However, it not follow the timeline of the J.J. Abrams movies. Blah 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 blah. What's your source? Let's see. Discovery, blah, blah, blah. Um, yeah, like this article on Screen Rant, they keep talking about it, but there's no actual source to this. Only that according to a report from Paramount. But where's this Paramount report? So I'd love to know, but unfortunately, no information on it. Anyway, and Mr. Potts is here. Says Beyond was what 9 years ago. I'm sure it's been long enough to know the fourth movie isn't happening. Yeah, but people keep saying, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming," And you never know. I mean, like the way that people in studio execs are, they're like, well, it's about time we did another Star Trek movie. Get that J.J. Abrams over here. And I hope that does not happen. Let's see. It was 8 new streaming series on Paramount Plus a year overall. Okay. But are you talking about 8 new Star Trek series or just 8 new shows in general? I saw at the movie theater Back to the Future Saturday. I think they might make a part 2. They might. It just might happen. Miss Moneypenny is in the house. How you doing, Miss Moneypenny? Robert is here as well. Good to see you, Robert. Shalom. All right. So in fact, it's kind of funny since Robert's here. There's not a ton. Everybody thinks that there's like 8 million Jewish holidays. There really isn't, as far as big ones. But we're about to get into the origin of one of those big ones, the Day of Atonement, commonly referred to as Yom Kippur. And the interesting thing is that Jews still celebrate Yom Kippur, but not in the way they're instructed to, which we'll get into in just a moment. Which I don't know, it seems kind of weird to me. I mean, as a Christian, I totally understand why you wouldn't celebrate Yom Kippur anymore. But as a Jew, if you don't believe that Christ was the Messiah, I certainly don't see how you could possibly justify not properly celebrating Yom Kippur. But we'll get to that in just a moment. So, the Day of Atonement. So, this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 16. Of course, last time we had all the fun and joy of reading through all the bodily discharges. So, fortunately, now that we've discharged everything out of our bodies, what do we do next? Well, the Day of Atonement. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron who died when they approached the Lord. Remember that. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come whenever he chooses into the most holy place behind the curtain in front of the atonement cover on the ark, or else he will die. For I will appear in the cloud over the atonement cover." Now, notice some of the stuff is not like when we're talking about the discharges and the skin rashes and all that good fun stuff. It was basically, that was not happening in real time. That was just kind of laying out some of the laws that God gave to Moses. Now we're back to the narrative that we had where Aaron's 2 sons approached the temple in an inappropriate fashion, and the fire of God literally just, turned them into ash. So we're following up from there. This is how Aaron is to enter the most holy place. He must first bring a young bull for a sin offering, a ram for a burnt offering. He is to put the sacred linen tunic with linen undergarments next to his body. He is to tie the linen sash around him and put on the linen turban. Of course, Mormons still believe in special undergarments, but they think everybody should wear them. These are the sacred garments, so he must bathe himself with water before he puts them on. From the Israelite community, he is to take 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron is to offer the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household. Then he is to take 2 goats and present them before the Lord and at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He is to cast lots for the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord and the other lot for the scapegoat. Yes, this is where the term scapegoat comes from. Aaron shall bring the goat whose lot falls to the Lord and sacrifice it as a sin offering, but the goat chosen by Lot as the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to be used for making atonement by sending it into the wilderness as a scapegoat. So the idea here, and this is, in the modern vernacular, a scapegoat is a person who takes the blame for something, even though they didn't do it. right? So, some people will accuse, like, say, the assassin of Charlie Kirk to be a scapegoat, that he didn't really do it, somebody else did, and he's just the one that got to take the fall, right? So that's a scapegoat. The term actually, it's not far off from the original usage back in the book of Leviticus here, where a scapegoat takes on the sins of Israel and then is sent out into the wilderness. And of course, it will die because it's a goat, so it'll probably get eaten by a lion or whatever. But the idea is that it takes away their sin for a period of time. And then, of course, a few, what, 1,500 years later or so, Jesus would become the ultimate and perfect sacrifice, making it no longer necessary. Aaron shall bring the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household. He is to slaughter the bull for his own sin offering. He is to take the censer full of burning coals from the altar before the Lord, and the 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense, and take them behind the curtain. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, and the smoke of the incense will conceal the atonement cover above the tablets of the covenant law, so he will not die. He is to take some of the bull's blood and with his fingers sprinkle it on the front of the atonement cover. He shall sprinkle some of it with his finger 7 times before the atonement cover. And notice here, so he's burning some incense in between him and the Ark of the Covenant, so that when the presence of God is there, he can't see it directly and doesn't die from the experience. He shall then slaughter the goat for a sin offering for the people, and take its blood behind the curtain and do what he did with the bull's blood. He shall sprinkle it on the atonement cover and in front of it. In this way, he will make atonement for the most holy place because of the uncleanliness and rebellion of the Israelites. Whatever their sins have been, he is to do the same for the tent of meeting, which is among them in the midst of their uncleanliness. No one is to be in the tent of meeting from the time Aaron goes in to make atonement in the most holy place until he comes out, having made atonement for himself, his household, and the whole community of Israel. So this is kind of a ceremony that he's doing to not only, basically alleviate his own personal sins, but that of his entire household and then of the entire nation of Israel. He shall then come out of the altar that is before the Lord and make atonement for it. He shall take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle some of the goat's blood and put it on the horns of the altar. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times to cleanse it, and it is to consecrate it from the uncleanliness of the Israelites. When Aaron has finished making atonement for the most holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he shall bring forward the live goat. He is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the wickedness and rebellion of the Israelites, all their sins, and put them on the goat's head. He shall then send the goat away into the wilderness in the care of someone appointed for the task. The goat will carry on itself all the sins to a remote place, and the man shall release it into the wilderness. So there you say, so he's basically praying over the goat, placing all the sins of the community, and that's going to take a little while to pray for all the sins of the community, and basically placing it on the goat. And then they have an assigned person who walks the goat far away from the encampment and then releases it into the wilderness. And of course, probably by the time that man gets back to the encampment, the goat will have been some lion's dinner. Then Aaron is to go into the tent of meeting and take off the linen garments he put on before he entered the most holy place. He is to leave them there. He shall bathe himself with water in the sanctuary area and put on his regular garments. He shall come out and sacrifice the burnt offering for himself and the burnt offering for the people to make atonement for himself and for the people. He shall also burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. So remember, the sin offering was to atone for actual sin. The burnt offering is to become closer to God. And so after he does all the stuff dealing with the sin, which was the whole point of all the slaughtering that he did earlier and releasing the scapegoat, now he comes out and does the burnt offering to bring the people of Israel close to God once again. The man who releases the goat as a scapegoat must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water afterward. He may come into the camp. So he needs to ceremonially clean himself before he can even come back home. The bull and the goat for the sin offerings, whose blood was brought to the most holy place to make atonement, must be taken outside the camp. Their hides, flesh, and intestines are to be burned up. The man who burns them must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may come into the camp. Now, this is interesting. It says, "This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. On the 10th day of the 7th month, you must deny yourselves and not do any work, whether native born or foreigner residing among you, because on this day, atonement will be made for you to cleanse you. Then before the Lord you will be clean from all your sins. It is a day of Sabbath rest, and you must deny yourselves. It is a lasting ordinance." Notice it says that twice here. This is a lasting ordinance. I mean, this is not something you are ever to stop doing. And what's interesting is that the Jewish people today still celebrate. This is Yom Kippur. They still do no work on Yom Kippur, but they don't make the sacrifices to make themselves clean. And what I don't understand is that how the Jews, and I know they've done it, but I don't get it. They've kind of justified not doing sacrifices because of the destruction of the temple, but then they kind of pivoted the sacrifices to mean, philanthropy, basically. And so they donate money to a good cause, or they, institute some new charity, which is why we get, they'll get a hospital wing named after them or something. And, those are all great things, but it seems really specific here what the Day of Atonement is supposed to be. It's not that you have to give some huge percentage of your wealth, but that the entirety of the community is only giving up a bull and a couple of goats, right? So it's not about the wealth value of the sacrifice. It's about the actual ceremony of the sacrifice, which is not happening. And Thomas, the 7th month of the year on the Jewish calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. Let's see. The priest may succeed. Okay. The priest who is anointed and ordained to succeed his father as high priest is to make atonement. He is to put on the sacred linen garments and make atonement from the most holy place for the tent of meeting and the altar and for the priests and all the members of the community. This is to be a lasting ordinance. Again, third time. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you. Atonement is to be made once a year for all the sins of the Israelites. And it was done as the Lord commanded Moses. So again, it's making it painfully clear that this whole thing with the sacrifices and stuff and the not working for the community and stuff is to happen every year forever, right? And now they're not doing it. Like I said, with Christians, it's understandable because the law has been fulfilled in Jesus Christ, and so it is no longer a necessary thing to do. But if you are a Jew who rejects Christ as Messiah, I would love to talk to an actual Jew who rejects Christ as Messiah, and they believe that they can do other things instead of this, despite the fact that this seems very, very meticulously laid out by God. It doesn't seem to me like God left a lot of wiggle room to say, oh, by the way, later on down the road, if you want, you can just give alms to the poor, and that will be that'll do the same thing as all the sacrifice stuff. I don't find that in the Old Testament anywhere. All right, so with that, let's do the chat, shall we? and see what you guys have to talk about. No, no, no. I already read that. Um, and yeah, Trek Review says new shows in general as opposed to 8 new Star Trek shows. That makes more sense, although that seems a little light. Depends, because I know that they're trying to put out a bid to buy HBO Max. That would be an interesting merger. Robert says, I just really do Passover. Okay, fair enough. But I know that there are Messianic Christians tend to say that you have to celebrate Yom Kippur as well. I'm not saying, obviously, I'm not saying you say that because you don't. But again, I can see as a Christian celebrating Yom Kippur, but in a sense, isn't every day like Yom Kippur since Christ has made the final atonement? I don't get it. Did Michael just fart? I hope not. Why do you always say that, Josiah? I don't get it, and it's kind of not that funny anymore. Here's a link to the Kelvin verse sources. Sorry. That's all right. And then there's the link, but let me go to live stream there so I can find where did you put the link. There it is. So, yeah, this is the Trek Core channel or website. Paramount has moved on from Star Trek Kelvin Timeline sequel films, says new Variety report. So, yeah, it's referring back to the same Variety report that's the article that I looked at. But nobody is, what I want to see is the actual report. I see, like, they're quoting an article from Variety, but I don't know. It's one of those things that I hate when there's a news story, and to get any information, to find the actual source on the information is nearly impossible. But I'll do some digging this week. And that's just for emphasis. Not sure what you're talking about. And then Josiah says, sure it was. Again, not sure what you're talking about. Wasn't Jesus a scapegoat? Okay, and then you said, sorry, I spoke too soon. Yes. Forgot we're before Christ still. Yes, we are 1,500 years or so before Christ at this point. Johnny English versus Dr. Evil. Well, I've never really. I tried to watch Johnny English, but I fell asleep. So I give it to Dr. Evil because at least I didn't fall asleep in the movies he's in. And I would say the same thing for Johnny English versus Austin Powers. What if Michael was a candle? Well, then I'd be on fire. He might be burning at both ends. That is very true. And then there's Thomas saying it's not the 7th month of the year. Yeah, again, Jewish calendar. And so Jewish New Year is not the same time as ours. And Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. So there's, I think, 13 months. But I get a little confused. Let's see. Jewish calendar. All right, so the Jewish calendar. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to buy a Jewish calendar. Man, it's so I really hate the way that search engines work these days. Hebrew. Oh, let's take a look at the. So yeah, let's see, Purim, Passover, Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Yeah, but it's still not helping me here. Yeah, so it looks like the Hebrew month of Nisan is the first month of the year, and it starts on the 12th of March. So if you look at then the seventh month as Tishril, that month lasts from the 5th of September to the 5th of October in the Gregorian calendar. So so that's why they can say it's the seventh month, even though October in the Gregorian calendar is the 10th month. I can't find anything on the TV side of Star Trek. Yeah, that's what has me a little concerned about the future of the franchise, because if they're not talking about a new Star Trek series beyond Strange New Worlds, which is already being shot, it may end with Starfleet Academy, which would be a horrible way to die. Thomas says, "Is Paramount trying to buy Disney, trying to be Disney and buy everything?" It's unfortunately, the way of the beast right now is that to survive in the media sphere, you need to consolidate a lot of known brands underneath your belt. And Disney got a head start on everybody doing that. That's why Disney, it seems like half the movies that come out are produced in some way by Disney. And so Paramount has really been struggling as far as their film side. The only really successful film franchise that they've had in recent years was the Fast and Furious, but the last Fast and Furious movie kind of fizzled. And they tried to get the MonsterVerse going, that didn't do anything. They're desperate to get some IPs under their belt. Now, if they buy out HBO Max, and I'm not sure if they're making a bid for Warner Brothers as well, but they might be. I think they're trying to get the DC superheroes. I think that's what their goal is. Let's see, Mister Know It All versus fight a pyro cowboy, extremely dangerous, athletic, 6'5", knows rough and tumble, rests bears, bulls, and horses, master of firearms, expert, was a 19th century firefighter, street gangster. Yeah, Mr. Know It All wouldn't have a prayer, but then neither would anybody else in this chat. ABJ is in the house, says, Yo, ABJ, hope you're doing well. JJ versus Prime Con. You really even have to ask. He will do far worse than kill them. He will hurt them. And he will go on hurting them. J.J. Abrams versus question mark. By a Jewish calendar, it can't hoit. Like, that's not even close. TTTR. I'm not sure what TTTR means. John Wick versus the Punisher. You've asked this one before, Josiah, and I think I said, from a distance, the Punisher wins. If it gets up close, John Wick wins. Tom says, "Don't forget Star Trek Scouts." I tried. Every time I try to watch it, it's like, oh, look, it's the exact same script for every episode, and I don't know why I go back and try it again, because it's the exact same script for every episode. And Street Preacher Stan says, maybe Academy will be great. Yeah, maybe. Buster Keaton versus Charlie Chaplin. Oh, Buster Keaton easily. The thing about God is, even though he's perfect and 100% moral and virtuous, he's still scary because he's the infinite, omnipotent being in existence. I'm glad I'm at least scared of him some. There isn't anyone or anything else in the infinite power and justice like him. Well, and that's why the Bible says fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And Christ even warns, don't be afraid of person who can only destroy your body. In other words, don't be afraid if somebody can kill you. Be afraid of him who can destroy your soul, namely God, because only God has that kind of power. And so it is wise to have a healthy fear of God. It doesn't mean you should be cowered in a corner and terrified, but it does mean that you should know that if you screw up, God is a just God, and you will pay the price for it. So you should. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I know a lot of people like to speculate, and I don't know. But I do know that it seems that you will be judged based on your works as well as the judgment that determines whether you are condemned or you get to go to paradise. So even if you get to go to paradise, it doesn't mean that you get to go to paradise first class. Star Wars Acolyte with their coven of witches producing the man of great power to save the galaxy. I just realized they stole the story from Dune. Um, it's got some similarities for sure. Um, Except that, at least my understanding is that Paul Atreides in Dune is he's a hero, whereas whoever, I can't remember the guy's name from Acolyte, but Darth Plagueis' apprentice is obviously evil. Johnny Mnemonic versus Neo. Well, if you're in the Matrix, Neo can literally do anything. If you're out of the Matrix, then Neo's just another guy. Maybe if Paramount buys Warner Brothers, we could see Star Trek Babylon 5 crossover that takes place in the Enterprise era Star Trek. That would be interesting, but I think they would have a difficult time rectifying all the differences between, like, because obviously all the alien races in Babylon 5 were never mentioned in Trek, and vice versa. You'd think on Babylon 5 there would have been some mention of Klingons. You know. And Josiah says, He-Man versus Superman. Superman with ease. Curious, do you think Babylon 5 as a concept was stolen by Star Trek producers? Um, I can't say that I have a strong opinion on this. Are there a lot of similarities between Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine? Yes. Are there a lot of similarities between Captain America, the First Avenger, and Wonder Woman? Yes. Are there a lot of similarities between Armageddon and Deep Impact? Yes. Does that mean every one of them is a ripoff of every other one of them? No. So I don't know if, even though I know people say, "Oh, but I heard that they said that." I'm just saying I don't know for a fact that anything was ripped off by anybody else. All that being said, Deep Space Nine was a better show, and so you know, regardless of whether or not it was some of the ideas were ripped off from Babylon 5, well, it was still a better show. Deadshot versus Bullseye. That's an interesting one. Both of them are pretty much superhumanly accurate, but Deadshot seems to have, I mean, like, Deadshot has armor. Deadshot is, basically, Bullseye likes to, throw things and stuff like that. He does shoot, but, he generally, at least from what I've seen of him, I'm not an expert on Bullseye, but he seems to like to throw things as his favorite method of killing. So, and Bullseye doesn't really have super duper armor to protect him from the occasional gunshot wound. So I'll probably have to go with Bullseye on that one. Space Seed Con versus Star Trek 2 Con. Well, that's an interesting one in that Space Seed Con is obviously stronger, and the Star Trek 2 Con is obviously a little more experienced, although still not experienced on starship tactics. However, considering that their intellect would be pretty much equal, I would probably have to give it to Space Seed Khan because he'll have the youth and the and strength advantage. Organians from Star Trek versus the Shadows from Babylon. Well, the Organians are darn near omnipotent, so I would have to give it to them. I myself equate B5 and DS9 to each other in quality. To me, one thing maybe that makes DS9 better is that it lasted 2 seasons more, but it's just more content. Well, I would say this. I think that I know a lot of people, you know, love Babylon 5, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a Babylon 5 hater. I'm just trying to compare the two objectively. And the visual effects on Babylon 5 clearly inferior. I know they were trying something different by doing CG effects for everything, which had never been done before, but they don't hold up at all. You can watch the, Deep Space 9 today and the visual effects for the most part hold up just fine. But you watch an episode of Babylon 5 and every time they show an exterior shot, it looks like a PlayStation. So that's downright distracting. The sets for such a grand station as Babylon 5 are laughably small if you actually look at them. The acting, in my opinion, is kind of stiff in comparison to. I think the acting on Deep Space Nine is far better. And quite honestly, while the story arc of Babylon 5 may be more intricate, I think that the story of Deep Space Nine is more compelling. Vorlon Planet Killer versus the Doomsday Machine. That's an interesting matchup, but the I would probably have to give it to the Doomsday Machine because the Planet Killer. Uh, I mean, I don't know for certain because it's been a long time, but I don't think the Planet Killer will be able to penetrate the Doomsday Machine's neutronium hull. Only a concentrated attack right down its gullet would do the trick. Now, granted, that's not that hard to do if once you know its weakness, but but if you don't know its weakness, the last thing you're going to do is fly something right down the throat of the Doomsday Machine. The anti-proton beam from the Doomsday Machine is quite capable of literally slicing planets to pieces. Remember, in Decker's Captain's Log, he says that the fourth planet was breaking up, and then Decker describes him as seeing this machine hovering over the planet and slicing chunks out of it. So yeah, not even close. Babylon 5 was planned for 5 years only. I heard that. I enjoy both shows. The visual quality is far better on D69. Agreed. Comic book Thor versus comic book Hercules. I would probably have to give it to Thor. Hercules can go toe to toe with Thor as far as raw strength, uh, but Thor has got more than just strength on his side. They're both seasoned veterans of combat, but Hercules doesn't have Mjolnir. I wonder how B5 would look with an HD remaster. Horrible unless they redid all the visual effects. That's what I think would be good. Is that if you actually took and you had modern visual effects artists re-render every CG shot from B5, that could be something. Vorlons versus Alpha Quadrant races. Um, you know, I'd have to do a study on Vorlon weapons tech and stuff because I can't give an honest answer without doing some research on it. I'm sorry. DC Herc or Marvel on the 70s cartoon Herc? I don't remember that one, so I can't give an honest answer. Side trigger, all live action Captain Kirk's fight. Who wins? Well, of course, the original. Assuming he's at his prime. If he's, Star Trek 6 era, then, and so he would lose, then, oh man. I mean, if you take them all at their current age, I would probably have to give it to Wesley, the current guy. Is it Paul? No. I'm trying to remember, whatever his name is. But the current guy that's playing Kirk. He may be skinnier than Chris Pine and William Shatner, but he's also a lot younger. You can always join Matthew and Jeff in about an hour when they watch Babylon 5. I've thought about that, but, Matthew is doing his own thing now, and I just keep wanting to talk about movie night with Matthew and how much I missed it. And besides, I think Jeff would feel like I was intruding unwelcomely if I came in. And I want to respect him. So, but yes, absolutely to everybody else. I see you put the link for that in there. By all means, go watch the Babylon 5 watch along with Matthew and Jeff. I made a bet with Matthew on something about B5, and if he loses, he will do a virtual pub. Hint, he will lose the bet. Well, that's cool. Tell me when he does the virtual pub, because I want to join in on that one for sure. But you should make another bet with him and make him come back to movie night with Matthew. Alternate version of Michael, 10 feet tall, fought dragon versus a man the size of a bear and the strength of a gorilla. 10 feet tall is bigger than a bear, so I guess I win. And thank you. Yes, it is Paul Wesley. That's what I thought, but I was not 100% sure. And you see, I'm not so arrogant as to think I know everything, despite what a lot of people seem to think about me. I just know almost